Terminal brain cancer, stage 3. So it's an estimated 6 years is the average life expectancy for people who are in my condition or my situation. But there's a more uplifting element to that when we get sort of more deeper into the situation. However, when you are awake, they're able to test. They kind of do this thing called A/B testing, where they're able to put a prong inside your brain, which doesn't have a nervous system, so you can't feel it. And then they'll ask you questions of, okay, which one's the dog? Which is the microphone? Which is the cup? And then you've just got to go, that's the microphone, that's the cup. And what they look out for is just, it's not if you go, oh, and you're not able to talk. It's not like that. It's just kind of if you were to go, that's the cup. And they look for that slight pause. And that means, okay, this bit of tissue is active brain tissue, so we won't remove that. And then they'll go to another area, because your brain is quite like a room. So like there's lots of air, there's lots of space here, and that's useful. But, you know, there's other places where there's like stuff, and the stuff is what makes your brain run. Very few people have that on their to-do list, their bucket list. And then they go out to the Great Wall of China. I'm not like on people who have these sort of travel goals or like goals, things that they want to do. That's fine. But the idea of that, like, you know, sort of like, I've always wanted to go to the Great Wall of China. It's not like you're going to arrive there and you're going to go, oh, my life is different now. I've seen this magnificent structure. It's like, I am awake now. I see things differently. It's like, that doesn't happen. People who complain about, like, you know, something like that happening, and it's like you drop a bottle of beer on the ground, or they drop a bottle of water or tea, and it's like, and someone goes like, that's my favorite mug, or it's, you know, some shit. It's like, just buy another mug. Like, accidents happen. These arguments do not need to happen. These exacerbated amounts of sort of upset, they do not need to happen. It's like, you know, having a family for me would be an achievement in my own mind. And so I don't really contemplate about the meaning of life so much, because I think in a basic format, the meaning of life for me is just simply, are you happy? Are you making others happy?
Thanks for watching the podcast. Here's a word from our sponsor, ATLAS VPN. Right now, I'm going to change my phone so that I am registered out of America. Let's go with Dallas, Texas, shall we? Just like that, I can now access everything online that our American friends can access, whereas previously I was blocked. And we've got the best VPN deal on the market. Enjoy the most affordable online protection for just $1.83 a month, which is just over £1. And 3 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect unlimited devices. ATLAS VPN protects all your devices with a single subscription. You can grab this summer deal now because ATLAS VPN Premium is just $1.83 a month, plus 3 months extra. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, protect your privacy and get many benefits of ATLAS VPN for the ridiculously low price. You can take this deal by clicking the link in the video description below on YouTube. Be quick, as it's a limited time offer. Thanks for checking out our sponsor. Back to the podcast. Today I'm here with Iain, and we've got a very inspirational story to tell. Many of you are aware that my little niece, when she was born at 1 year old, was diagnosed with leukemia. My sister for the past decade has been, you know, basically facing her daughter's mortality, the prospect of which is something that for a human being to go through for years is extremely traumatic, but she's come through it a much stronger person. Now, Iain, you've got a situation. Can you just, before we go to your life story, can you just tell the viewers what you're facing, please?
Terminal brain cancer, stage 3.
And what is the prognosis with that?
So it's an estimated 6 years is the average life expectancy for people who are in my condition or my situation. But there's a more uplifting element to that when we get sort of more deeper into the situation.
And how many years ago was it diagnosed?
3.
Okay. All right. So you have got this accent that's endearing. Whereabouts in the are you based, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm based in Dublin. However, my family are from Clare and Meath, but no, the accent is from Dublin, slightly northern Dublin.
Yeah, I'm Sean Patrick. My dad wanted to name me Patrick, but my mum changed it to Sean at the last minute because
Yeah,
my
that's my dad's
grandmother's
name.
side, my grandmother's side comes from Ireland. Yeah, yeah. So growing up, normal childhood.
Oh yeah. No, I've like every so often I think my mom watches some sort of a Netflix or crime doc or something like that, and then she calls me up and being like, "Did you have a happy childhood? I'm just worried about you," because like she's hearing stories of people being like, "Oh God, all this shit happened and it's awful." And no, I had a great childhood. Like it seems that the same thing where it's like when you talk to Americans, when you talk to quite a lot of people from the UK as well, where it's like, "Oh, what was?" We call it secondary school, but it's like high school, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was awful. It was like just so clicking." It's like, Jesus, for us, it was 100 people were in our year, 600 people were in our entire school. Everybody knew each other. It was great fun. No one really, I wouldn't say bullied. Like people got picked on the odd time for doing stupid stuff, but like no one got like battered for just existing.
And how old are you now, Ian? And back when you was a teenager, what did you want to be?
So I'm 34 now, and I wanted to be loads of different things. The thing that kind of like there's a bit of a true line that goes through all of the jobs that I wanted, but like fire department was one of the main ones. When I first was leaving school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted, and I did computer game development, and I thought that would have far more of a creative streak in it, and it just wasn't. It was all just programming. I was like, this is not for me. And then I started trying to get into the fire department, so I studied paramedic science. The when I graduated with that, the recession broke out, and then so I went over to the UK because they would actually pay for education to become a nurse. I thought nursing would be similar to sort of being involved in like ambulance care. It's not. It's very, very different. A lot more paperwork to do, and a lot more sort of pulling on the jacket of a doctor, being like, "Hi, can you sign this for me so that I can actually do my job?" And like doctors don't like that as well. Doctors, they're busy, and it's like most of the time they learn which nurses are competent and which aren't. And so the fact that the competent nurse is coming over and asking for them time to do that, the doctors get frustrated with the situation as well, because it's like, this is just adding a third person into a situation that would have been more effective if like a nurse that's experienced is able to be like, okay, you need this, so I'm going to give you this, rather than having to run around a hospital to find a doctor. But yeah, from that I then went down to sports science, and then was working as a fitness instructor. So you can kind of see like a line where they're all sort of connected outside of the computer game development. And yeah, I never was able to get into the fire department because there just wasn't opportunities for it. There was the recession broke in, and they never said like, we don't know when we're going to be hiring next. So I was like, right, well, am I going to wait for this, or am I going to just get busy with something else? And that's what I did.
So which career did you enjoy the most?
Like I think the fitness classes is definitely something that suits me more, but it has quite the ceiling. You can either jump over it and kind of start a career with like owning your own gym, where it's like your career then has a sort of an open factor where it's not going to be capped. Whereas fitness class instructor, you can only kind of go so far, and I was at that sort of the peak of that. Unless I start like, there's other options where you can become like doing it online, and then it becomes a little bit sort of endless amounts of profits or career progress. But that's not what I was looking to do at the time. I like, believe it or not, I don't actually I never actually really wanted to be like a big star on social media or whatever like that. That was never really a goal of mine. It's just I knew that my situation with the cancer, and wanted to try and break the world record for the most money raised. It was like, right, well, the easiest path for this is undoubtedly through social media. So let's just go with that. But yeah, I in some ways though, like I know military people, and I was like a part of the reserves, and I like dabbled in with that, and that sort of stuff would actually suit me really well. Just the structure, and while I am actually a like very free thinking person, and in some ways I don't like being told what to do, especially in the creative world, where it's like, that's not the right way to do it, you're an idiot. It gets frustrating in my mind. But I also quite like, okay, we're up here, we're going to be here at this exact time, you're required to do this, off you go, this is how you do it. Like, in some ways I actually quite like that sort of strict guidelines to do something. If it's like, you're paid to do this exact thing in this way, there's a kind of a relaxation that goes through the mind, where it's like, okay, yep, just follow the instructions, off we go.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a fitness class guy. I've been known to get hyper in body combat when they get a bit of scooter on, or blaze, body pump. What classes were you doing?
Because you look like him.
What classes were you into?
Sure, all fitness classes, they're all the same, really. They really are. We sort of jazz them up and make them a little bit different, so that it's sort of something different to keep people coming in terms of, like, you don't want people to get bored. You want people to be coming in as consistently as possible, because it doesn't matter how much work you're putting in. Consistency is always the most important thing, because it forms habits, and habits are everything in life, really. If you want to be successful at like most things, habits are the way to do it. And so like, you'd have, like, circuit classes. I reckon that'd probably be my favorite one, because now I record my own workouts, and I sort of teach them a little bit, but I kind of know no one's really working out while I'm working out. I think they just kind of like, sort of like, if I was to look at a circuit class on YouTube and then adopt it from myself later on, I think that's what's going on. Or if people are just being supportive, doesn't really matter. But yeah, so I kind of do my own circuit classes, and then as I'm doing them, I will ask the audience, okay guys, what's the next I'm doing bench press now, comment what you want to be the next leg thing. And then I'll look in and be like, oh no, we already did that. Squats. Okay, we'll do squats. And so I let them decide what's coming next, while it being sort of guided by me. Because if it's sort of just, hey, what exercise is next, people will they'll probably end up saying like the same things over and over again. It's like, okay, we did bench press 400 times, no legs, no back, and now I'm sore.
A lot of people get in and out of fitness, but you've got discipline. Where does that discipline come from? I'm not disciplined at all. So that's why I kind of was pushing quite a lot on the habits. It's not so much about the discipline of situations. It's about getting yourself into a habit, because then you don't need to be disciplined. You need to, you just do what is normal. But to make it a habit requires some mental strength. Where does that fortitude come from?
I guess it's like, well, I don't dislike fitness classes. I don't dislike running. I don't dislike lifting weights. So it was never so much of a chore for me to do. And so doing those sort of things, it was like, yeah, this, you don't always want to do it, but it's always important to do it. So like, even when there'd be like days where I really didn't want to, because I'd already formed a habit of going to the gym or going for a run, it was easier to just get over the fact that I didn't want to do it. But again, like, I'm not particularly disciplined. Like, as a simple example, I was really bad at any kind of assignment or writing part of university. Like in every single one of the subjects, I was terrible at it, just because I just really didn't like the sort of the structure. It was the too rigid. It was too kind of a lot of it felt pointless. Like, why does referencing have to be done in this particular order, in this particular way? I get it that that's sort of to keep it formatted so you can trace it, but it's kind of like, this has gone the way of the dodo. You want to do a reference, just have a link. Like dates, people that wrote it, fair enough, but like, does the order really matter that much for you to be like, oh, sorry, your referencing hasn't been put particularly like in the right order? Now that will mean that as a fitness instructor, as like someone who's teaching a class, we're going to give you a D rather than a B because your referencing is shit. It's like, okay, that's never going to be important for what the kind of work that I'm going to be doing ever again. And now gyms are usually, they'll take you in at whatever grades you are. They'll judge it more on your own personality. But just to use that as an example, it doesn't make sense for me, and it irritates me when it's like, you're not very good at this sort of paperwork stuff, which you'll never need in the job that you're about to have, but your grade said B, when even though your ability to communicate and your ability to actually read human movement and be like, your problem here is that this, which is far more important. It's like, no, you're not good at putting pen to paper.
What were your university years like?
The ones in with nursing were absolutely terrible. They were just like especially seeing as how it was like 3 years of early 20s. Like those are formative years where you can be doing some incredible stuff, and I just spent it in like a very bland town, not really much to do. I was staying in High Wycombe, and then even at that, like the actual education center was in Aylesbury, which was just a double pronged, like, why didn't you put me up in Aylesbury? Not like Aylesbury is particularly better, but like the commute for the two places is over an hour, and it was just like, this university, like they really threw a curveball at me. And yes, never go with the University of Bedfordshire. They're awful. And then that changed dramatically when I moved to London. I was going in and out of London quite a lot from High Wycombe. Thankfully, it's not too far from London. And I was getting work in London, and then eventually I moved into London. And then because I had UK residency, I was able to apply for university, and I went to St. Mary's, and St. Mary's in Twickenham was brilliant and great fun out there.
So I remember when I was at uni, it was Liverpool, and I discovered raving. I even sat my finals coming down off ecstasy with all this beep, 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 beep going off in my brain. What was your social life like during your university years?
Oh, yeah, it was great. I remember one of the pitching points for St. Mary's was that it was a small university, and that ended up being a better thing. And having gone to Mount Temple, which was my high school, my secondary school, and having stories from like loads of Brits and loads of Americans about big high schools, I was like, okay, to me that seems like less friends, that seems like fewer friends, but I'll take him at his word. And so I chose that one, and it was absolutely correct. Like, you can't go through the halls without knowing like everybody. And then sometimes I would literally have to either plan, all right, my class is starting in 15 minutes and it's going to take me an actual 5-minute walk to get there, but I know I'm going to meet so many people and like just have chit chats with them that like I should leave now. And sometimes if I was going to be late for something, I would have to take the longer route because I knew there'd be fewer people there, and so I wouldn't have to like say hello to as many people. It was brilliant. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody was like, and it was a sports focused university as well. It's like for London 2012, for the Olympics, it was like one of the locations where a lot of the athletes trained. I think Mo Farah went to university there, and like everything that everybody studies, bar like I think 5% of the population, is something to do with sports. Whether that be sports management, sports psychology, it's all sports. And then the amount of teams that there are, it's just brilliant, because then like when you go on holiday, they go on holiday together and everybody's in their own little groups. But at the same time, like we kind of had things where like, because we do stuff together, that some groups would kind of click with each other. Like the rugby union team, did a lot of stuff with the football team as well. So it's like a completely unrelated sports, but we still were like in the sort of the same crew. So it was brilliant, great fun.
So would you say that through your 20s you were thriving then?
I wouldn't say I was thriving, but like I was, because like the early years of my 20s were sort of wasted. I did like, you know, I'm a big believer in like failures are only failures if you learn something from them. And I really didn't learn much from being in High Wycombe and being in Aylesbury. It was just sort of time. Like I picked up some good habits. Like sort of I started. Hence why I went into sports. Sports science afterwards. I went to the gym and I started to kind of look at the way I was going to the gym a lot more technically and a lot more from a scientific point of view rather than just, hey, go down and lift stuff up and put it down again. But like more sort of, yeah, let's lift stuff up and put it down again, but lift up this amount of weight and lift it up for this amount of times and then rest for this amount of time and so on. But like, if I was in Ireland, I would have done that same sort of thing, I'd imagine anyway, except I might have been just, even if I was just working and just earning, you know, a living, you know, I might have had something that is sort of keeps going. Like I would have gone on more holidays to interesting places in the world. I might have, you know, learned how to drive and bought a car. Not really much use in London, but still a skill that I know how to drive, but I still don't have a license because I've been living in London for 10 years.
So throughout those years then, were you single or did you meet someone?
Yeah, along the way I had girlfriends and then broke up with them, and yeah.
And you said about all these different factors that you were appraising more in terms of your fitness. How did nutrition go into the equation?
I mean, like if you're into your fitness, you're into your nutrition. Yeah, one thing sort of leads directly into the other. So, for me, like again, going back to the discipline where I'm not actually that disciplined, I try as much as possible to not have sugar in my life because it's just awful. It's just poison. I absolutely despise that. Like I know it's sort of it got naturally into our culture because sugar used to be as available as it is now, but I really think we need to just stamp it out because it's too much where it's like sort of kids as a prize, you give them sugar. That's not a good prize. That's not a good way to reward kids. There's loads of other ways. Like, you know, I understand sugar's cheap, but you can come up with like a small amount of creativity and you can come up with something that is also cheap that you could give to kids as like little prizes. There's loads of little toys that you could give to a child as reward system for that could easily replace sugar. Lego comes to mind, where you could just like, if they started selling like tiny little bits of that, or like just buying like little, you know, crayons, whatever. You don't have to give everybody sugar as a gift. Same thing goes for adulthood. You know, you hear it all the time with like sort of office, I wouldn't call it office politics, but like when people come in with a big chocolate bar, and so it's like they bring in a big thing of chocolate so that they can leave it there for other people to eat, and it justifies them eating themselves. And it's like, that's not that, like, it's like, seems like you're doing a nice thing. You're not. It's like you're putting beer in front of an alcoholic, because everybody fails to acknowledge that we're all addicted to that stuff. But it's just kind of, sure, it's not that bad. You don't see people on the floor getting sick, like, you know, out of their heads in the street from eating chocolate. And it's like, therefore it's not an addictive substance. And it's like, no, it really doesn't, the difference between, like, say, if you go to a music festival and you're on the pints, you're on the sauce, and yeah, we all like overdo it from time to time. And then if you take that person home and they're hungover, but they're hungover in the sense that, like, you know, oh god, yeah, no, it was a brilliant weekend, my head's wrecked now. If you were to ask them, okay, if I could take away the alcohol from that situation that you just experienced, would you allow me to do that? I'd imagine most people would be like, no, the beer was like part of it. It sort of lowered my inhibitions. I was like more friendly with loads of people. I made friends because we were all being a bit more wild. We were jumping around in gigs. I don't think I would have gotten to that level if I was sober. And then if you ask that same question to someone who like ate their birthday cake and like went out and had their fun, if you were to say like, hey, if I could take away your birthday cake from that situation now and the exact same situation, everybody would say yes. Everybody, because it's not like you go, oh man, I'm so glad I ate that cake last night. Like you might say that cake was delicious, but it's different. It didn't add to the experience. It added to the experience for like 5 minutes, the moment that it was in your mouth, and then the moment that it was swallowed, gone, no more. Whereas beer, for an example, tastes nice, so you have that same sort of level of this is delicious, but then also you have the effects of how it then changes your behavior, and that's not always a good thing. I'm not promoting it as if like you don't have to be careful with the amount that you consume. That's certainly a problem, especially if you do it on like too much of a regular basis. But there is a difference between stuff that's bad for you that can also be good for your life experiences, and then there's just stuff that's bad and it doesn't bring anything.
Yeah, I've been watching all these sugar experts on the Diary of a CEO podcast recently. And having lived in America for 16, 17 years, the diabetes over there was off the scale. And I think England is now just following in that same trajectory of the Americans with the sugar products and the diabetes getting out of control here as well.
Yeah, the UK is blessed, and like I was in America recently, and something that I learned very like I always heard about this, but I also kind of thought you're just going to the corner shops where they sell stuff rather than going to the supermarkets. Vegetables and fruit it's so much more expensive than just the crap it's bizarre when you come in. I know it's down to supply and demand and what's available. And most of their crops, they have 3 crops where they have wheat, soybeans, and corn, and they get the corn to turn into high fructose corn syrup, and then they have the wheat. And then so what they do is like when it's like processed, and it's basically the crap that should be thrown out. That's what gets made into stuff like Twinkies and cookies because it's so cheap. And so that's why you go in and you see these like cakes that have gone through all these processes, and you wonder, how is this cookie less expensive than that piece of broccoli? Surely a piece of broccoli is just grown in the ground and then put on the shelf. Whereas this cookie has to be like grown into wheat, grown into sugar, processed, changed into, then you need to add this, and this. But it just is like, I'm not going to bother explaining it. You can look into it yourself why that situation is. But it's really hard that like it makes sense that poor people in the United States just get to be in such poor shape. And it's definitely something that in the UK and Ireland that I certainly am a lot more grateful for. And I do try to eat a lot more vegetables, even more than I previously did. But if you're poor and you're overweight in Ireland and the British, just the British Isles in general, you don't have an excuse. You have access to food that is very affordable. I'm not quite sure what the structure of that is, but whether that's just the UK government. I'd like to think that it's the UK government anyway, where they're stepping in and being like, here, look, we have the NHS, we're paying for that. How about we make the healthy food more available to the population? And that will be, you drop down in like, every fucking kind of health ailment that there is. I don't think that's the real reason. That's me kind of thinking in like an ideal situation of the world. But you really need to appreciate the fact that the rest of the world does not have healthy food to access like we do. And also the quality of the taste of food is different. Like if you have fruit, you're kind of like, okay, when's the flavor gonna hit me? Because like it's still nice. Like if you eat apples and strawberries in the United States of America, California, there's like both an increase in the taste of the food and a decrease in the taste of and in the cost. I think that's just due to what is farmed in the state. But generally, like the difference is bizarre how much less there is to actually like taste.
Iain, what was your life like when you turned 30?
Yeah, it was fine. Like I was doing well with the with my career, but I was kind of hitting the point where it was I was getting a bit frustrated with how I knew my career was never going anywhere, and I was sort of twiddling my feet. And prior to that, I was in a relationship, and like my career was never really a big focus because I've read enough books and listened to enough audiobooks where um it's like, okay, do you want to spend your life focusing on your career, or do you want to spend your life focusing on your life? And I started kind of break that down. It's like, yeah, what do I like? I don't know what I want to do career wise, but I do know that I want to have a family. So why don't I focus on that then? Why don't I like try to look up or try to get like, you know, a stable family, big family, like, you know, like I wanted to have like fucking 5 kids. I wanted to have enough kids to be able to like take over a country. And so that's what my my sort of plan was, my scheme, my evil plan. But then we broke up, and so I was in that sort of place where it's like, oh Christ, like now, sort of, what am I going to do? Focus on the career? Like, because if I knew that it would be stupid for me to be like, okay, focus on getting a new relationship, because it's like there's no focus. You can't focus on that. Like you put yourself out into the world, and what happens is what happens. I always found it silly when you'd see like people on dating profiles when they say like, I'm looking for a boyfriend, or like, I'm not looking for a boyfriend. It's like, I don't think either of those matter, because you still have to go on dates with people, and you still have to sleep with them really to find out if like this is going to be a long-term partner. uh and then in the reverse, it's like, no, I'm not looking for a girlfriend. It's like, yeah, you say that until you sleep with someone and they're amazing, and now you have a girlfriend. It's like both of them are the exact sort of, you just have to keep putting yourself out there, and then either no one comes along or someone comes along. But it doesn't change, like, you just because you want something more than the other, it doesn't change the situation in my eyes.
And how had you met your partner that you wanted to have the kids with?
Oh, like I think most of my girlfriends have all been off of a dating app, and then just a classic dating app, work, school, university.
And how long were you guys together?
Not very long, but we had moved in with each other, so it was kind of like increased the amount of time spent with one another. I think it was like only like a year and a half, so short term in a lot of how a lot of people would see that. But we were in the same house after a month.
And then how did the health situation manifest?
Completely unknown. That brain cancer, part of the reason why it's terminal and they haven't been able to find any sort of a reliable cure for it, is because they don't know what causes it. People have their assumptions, but they are assumptions. Nothing has been sort of set down. And so with that, it just sort of happened.
What were the first symptoms?
Didn't have any.
How did you know that you had it?
I didn't. I was doing medical trials. I've been doing medical trials for quite a while now. They absolutely chuck money at you, and most of the time you go in and it's not in any way sort of difficult. People seem to have this thing that like they'll be jamming pipes into your head and like turning you into an ogre, and it's like, it really isn't. You go in there and you take like a new form of paracetamol, was one of the ones I did, and it's like, okay, cool, thank you for taking the paracetamol, no side effects, here's 2 grand, I'll, you know, off you go. And you also get like it's almost like like in some regards like a bit of a video game, because you go in there and sometimes you leave and you have benefits. Like I now have a resistance to the HIV virus because I did a medical trial about producing a vaccine. And obviously the first thing that I was saying to them was like, okay, is there any chance whatsoever that I can get HIV, seeing as how this is a vaccine? Like, are you giving me a dead version of HIV? And they were like, no, we're not. We're giving you this thing that's related to the same virus. It is not deadly to humans in any way, but it will, we're hoping that it would act on promoting your immune system to resist this type of virus. And that's what HIV falls under. And so now I have those, I can't remember what they're called. but they're the things that basically more security guards for that type of virus. So yeah, some benefits come with it. And then while I was doing that, I did one that was to do with the studying of the brain. And so before I went into the medical trial, they gave me an MRI, and within the MRI, that's where they saw that there's actually a benign tumor growing in there, and they were like, that it needs to be looked at again. And then from looking at it again, they then were able to say, like, okay, we first thought that this was benign, it wasn't something to worry about. However, since the last scan, we've seen that it is growing, and so that means that it's likely to be cancerous. And from it being cancerous, that's kind of because that was at that point, it was during COVID, and so coincidentally, just before that, I had been starting up my own YouTube channel just for playing video games, because the way I was seeing it is like, when you play video games, it's fun, but it's kind of like can very quickly become a waste of time. And so I was like, how about I make a YouTube channel out of it, and I can turn it into something that's somewhat productive. I didn't think that it would turn into any kind of a career. That was never what my goal was. My goal was just to get to like 1,000 followers and like earn a bit of, just, beer money, we call it, a holiday money. Very little, not too much of an impact on my life, but just something where it's like I'm sitting down and there's a sense of community. It's like, all right, guys, we're doing a stream today. Like, what are we doing? So it's like I'm talking to people, I'm engaging in people while I'm actually playing a game. So that's what my my goal was. And because that was timed with when I got the cancer diagnosis, and because I had like the scars on the side of my my head, and I was like, okay, I'll probably have hair loss. It was like, I need to get ahead of this and mention that this is going to be an elephant in the room. So I was like, I'll do stuff for charity as well. Then I went in for my surgery, and then after the surgery, they were saying, yeah, okay, so we were predicting this. We thought this would be the worst situation, and unfortunately, it is the worst situation. You do have, it looks like it's going to be stage 3 cancer. So from that, I was like, okay, fuck, just sort of addressing that. Here's a mark. Here's a scar on my head. It's caused by this. Let's just like double down on that and make the focus about charity. So that went from like including video games to including running and all that sort of stuff, and that's where I'm at now.
Right, let's go over this a bit more slowly, please, Iain. Then, so your first diagnosis was it was a harmless tumor. When you got that diagnosis, what went through your head at that point?
When it was a benign one, nothing really. It was just sort of, I asked them, what's going on? Is there anything to worry about? Is there anything I need to be concerned about? And they were like, no, you just need to be aware of this for the rest of your life. You need to be getting scans every 3 months. I was like, okay, that's not a bother.
What date was that?
It was in and around September 2020, I think. Maybe it's 2019.
How long after that date did you become aware that it wasn't harmless?
It took 6 months because it went over COVID, and COVID kind of slowed things down a lot.
And when you heard that, what went through your head at that point then? Did you go through some kind of reaction? Like, I can't imagine, if I went to the doctors, I'd probably come out shell-shocked.
Yeah, no, that is what happened. I was shocked, and I was just sort of went into like, right, how am I going to be dealing with this? And the first sort of dilemma that I had come up with was right, am I going to tell people about this? Who am I going to tell, if I'm going to tell anybody?
Thank you for watching the podcast. Here's a word from our sponsor, Rocket Money. Don't you hate it when you've got subscriptions out there that you don't know about, taking all that cash out of your account? I recently found out I had 4 Amazon Prime subscriptions. Now I've got it down to 1. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills, all in one place. Most people think they're spending $80 on their subscriptions, when in reality the number is closer to $200. when you're signed up for so many things like streaming services you used to watch one show or free trials for delivery you don't use, it's so easy to lose track of what you're paying for. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Shaun, SHAUN. That's rocketmoney.com, SHAUN, rocketmoney.com/Shaun. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Link is in the description box on YouTube. Back to the podcast.
Because it was, COVID was going on, so no one was going to be able to come over and visit me anyway. So it's sort of like, what's the point? Are they just going to be texting you loads? That's going to be annoying. You don't want to do that. I know how I deal with things, and I deal with things by focusing on other stuff and distracting myself. In some situations, that would be, except when it's sort of like, you need to do this, and to help it, you need to focus on it. I'll focus on it. But if it's kind of there's nothing you can do, you just got to sit there and wait, I will distract myself, and rather than just sit there and dwell on it, because I don't think that's helpful. And so I had this sort of debate with myself where it's like, do I want to tell anybody, because they're going to be fucking and so I started with my friends and I asked them, I really don't want to tell my parents about this. I don't want to tell my family about this, because it's going to make the situation worse. I know they're going to try. They're going to try and make things better, but it will make it worse, because they will not stop bringing the subject matter up when I'm trying to distract myself from it. And but they were all like, no, they're your family. You have to tell them. You have to tell them. You have to tell them. And then so I was like, I capitulated. And I was like, all right, yeah, I will. And exactly as I predicted happens, they then just started badgering me constantly about wanting updates and all this sort of shit. And but I mean, I got through the end of it. I went to my surgery, and afterwards I was able to speak properly after a week or so. So yeah, sure. It's all fine now.
So, all right. So when you got that news then that it was harmful, did you go through various stages of adaptation? For example, shock, acceptance, and then, trying to fine-tune your life to do, to maximize your chances of longevity in the face of it?
In some regards, yeah. I kind of just went more with the idea of do what you can to prevent the problem, but act like you're going to live through this next to 100%. So the first thing that I started doing is, because, like I said, I'd started up a YouTube channel. And they said that I might not be able to speak properly. I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a lot of footage of what I'm doing. But I'm not going to focus on the editing, because I'll be able to edit after this if it's speech that's just been the big problem, but I won't be able to film. So I did a lot of filming for my channel, and which ended up being a waste of time, because not a waste of time, I suppose, because it did keep me focused on what I was going to be doing. But loads of that footage I'll never really use, because after I got my prognosis, I changed my tune. And but yeah, so I stayed focused on that and thought of, all right, bad situation, you're not going to be able to speak for a while. Good situation, you'll still be able to do other things. But I didn't really have to worry about that, because it only took 7 days until my speech came back.
So when they told you it was harmful, did they give you a list of options at that point? Was surgery just one of several options? Chemo, radiotherapy, etc.?
Yep. But to me, the options weren't really options. It was just kind of like, the question of, do you want to suffer a lot for the rest of your life, or do you want to go through an unpleasant situation and have a much higher chance of, living quality life? And I was shocked when I said it to the doctor, where I was like, okay, well, obviously with the options, I'm going to go for surgery and I'll go for chemotherapy. And the doctor was like, it's like, some people choose not to do chemotherapy for holistic reasons, and that's fine. But the difference of awake surgery versus not awake surgery is that when you do awake surgery, it's unpleasant. It's not like that painful. It's like, it's not nice to go through. I'm not going to deny that. However, when you are awake, they're able to test. They kind of do this thing called A/B testing, where they're able to put a prong inside your brain, which doesn't have a nervous system, so you can't feel it. And then they'll ask you questions of, okay, which one's the dog? Which is the microphone? Which is the cup? And then you've just got to go, that's the microphone, that's the cup. And what they look out for is just, it's not if you go, oh, and you're not able to talk. It's not like that. It's just kind of if you were to go, that's the cup. And they look for that slight pause. And that means, okay, this bit of tissue is active brain tissue, so we won't remove that. And then they'll go to another area, because your brain is quite like a room. So like, there's lots of air, there's lots of space here, and that's useful. But you know, there's other places where there's like stuff, and the stuff is what makes your brain run. And so what they're looking for is areas that are room within or space within a room, versus things that are like, you know, a kitchen or a microwave, which is actually practical and creates your ability to speak, your ability to articulate words. That's not what they're looking for. So the difference between that and doing it in surgery where you're asleep, where they put you under, they don't know. So they're just taking out the bits that look like they're damaging. So for me, and I'd like to think for most people, that's not an option. That's just common sense, where it's like, okay, yeah, I want to be able to speak. I want to increase my ability to be able to speak properly, far more than the unpleasantness of going through, 3 hours of a surgery. But like, I was absolutely shocked when the doctor said, no, a lot of people actually choose the sleep surgery. And I was just like, I hope they came out better, but like, if they didn't, that's on them.
I can imagine some people are intimidated by the prospect of their head getting sawn open if that's what happens.
Certainly is, but I mean, like, it's the difference between, are you going to suffer for a tiny percentage of your life to then degrade the entirety of the rest of your life, and the amount of, like, not just for like how you're not able to speak to people properly anymore, but you could end up in situations where the 3 hours of agony that you had to go through, you'll have to go through that multiple times because you're no longer able to communicate to people. Like, there's no point in even starting the conversation of how bad that could go. But like, you might have, like, the lion with the thorn in his foot. You know, the lion, the big problem was that the lion was not able to communicate to the rest of the animal kingdom that he had a thorn in his foot. And then I can't remember how the fairy tale goes, but like, the mouse comes up and takes the thorn out, and then, the lion's gracious, but they weren't able to say that. That could be your life. You now have, some sort of a problem that you're not able to discuss with someone else. So I just think that the difference between how much you can suffer short term, and it's not even like a kind of maybe I'll be okay. It's like the stats for improving your life quality, your life, and even your life expectancy, never mind just the quality of your life, but the expectancy of it as well. It was just, pardon the pun, or maybe include the pun, because now I'm able to recognize that this is a pun, because my ability to speak has gone through this process for the better. But no pun intended. But it was a no-brainer for me.
What were your expectations from the surgery?
I tried not to focus on expectations. I kind of made some plans for if I was going to go through a bad situation, and then hence the making loads of videos but not focusing on the edits. And hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So that's just what I did.
So there was a range of possible results, and you said earlier that when they went in, they saw a worst case scenario. Is that what happened?
Well, worst case scenario would be I'm dead. I suppose worst case scenario past that would be I'd completely lose my ability to speak. The doctor said that because that I don't have symptoms now, that at the far end of the surgery, the worst case scenario would probably be that it'll take a year for me to get my ability to speak back. And so I was like, right, that's bad, but I could get through that.
So after the surgery, then what did they tell you?
They said, yeah, we can confirm that this is definitely cancerous. It's exactly the sort of the worst case scenario in terms of treatment. In terms of what the surgery itself could do, we definitely didn't go through the worst case scenario. They were predicting 6 months to a year until full recovery, and that got covered in 6 days. So it was like, right, that's a really good sign. And then they also said that that's probably a good sign in general for your situation, because while they were saying 5 to 6 years is the average life expectancy, they also quickly said that the life expectancy, this is based off of people who come in with no symptoms, and the people who come in with no symptoms are usually people who are retiring, and so they're getting like a full health check. And so they are more than twice my age. And so then they're like, okay, that's a big factor. If like, as an example, the plasticity of the brain is massively affected by age. So if you get like head trauma when you're a child, often parents don't even detect it because it's healed so quickly. Babies can have strokes, and like good parents, it's not incompetent parents, often don't realize it until they might have a brain scan when they're much older in their life. And that is because the baby just looks like they have a flu, and they're just acting up a little bit. And then within weeks, they're back to normal brain function, because the brain is just so good at moving all the bits and pieces into different areas of the brain to function. And that happens all the way through age in a diminishing effect. So they were saying that because I was 30 at the time, that it's like, right, yep, you're in a good, you're like it's not the best age. If this was 20, you'd be in a better situation, but 30 is significantly, you've got a significantly healthier brain than a 60-year-old. And so they were like, we have these stats, but they're not based on people your age. And then there's also the fact that you're into your fitness. That's always going to have helpful things towards your general longevity and your how robust your body is to problems. So they're like, you're a bit of a unicorn. So we have these stats, but they don't really apply to you, sort of thing.
So they told you it was stage 3. Did they give you any other treatment options?
Yep, chemo. So like it was chemo and radiotherapy. That was after the brain surgery, which I took on. You can still kind of see it there. Luckily, I've got big, thick hair, so you can see the thinning there compared to that side.
Yep.
Well, like, good luck trying to get through that fucking mop. So yeah, that wasn't too much of a problem. I was like kind of worried that there might be worse hair loss, but once it all fell out and then kind of grew back a bit. But even the stuff that all fell off, I was kind of like, even if this falls off for my entire life, this isn't too bad. I'll just be rocking a mohawk for the rest of my days. And I went in when I was going in for the radiotherapy down in the Royal Marsden Hospital down in Sutton, near the UK, or near London. I seen like other lads that were in there. Like they were the same kind of lads as me as well, which is kind of funny. It was like all the big lads, they had a mohawk, and it was like, yeah. Obviously, I'm not the first person to think of this, where it's like, well, if I have to, like, if I can't grow hair on one side, I mean, I only have one choice. What am I going to do? Like a mega comb over? So
what was the outcome of those therapies? What was the goal, and what happened?
There wasn't a particular goal. It was just trying to make the tumor shrink, make the tumor not grow as much. And so in some regards, they've been successful with that, because the tumor has shrank a little bit. And so at this point, it's been maintenance for 2 years now, nearly. So yeah, it's just every 3 months I get a check. Other than that, I'm not on any prescribed medication. I was on epilepsy medication for a while because I had a couple of seizures um, while I was out running and pushing myself. But now I haven't had a seizure in a while, in a long time. And so I stopped taking the medicine by my own choice. The doctors didn't advise me to do that, but I was just sort of like, here, look, I haven't had anything close to a seizure. I haven't had a murmur. I don't want to be taking pills that I don't believe I need anymore my whole life, because all sorts of drugs from pharmaceutical companies, you know, a lot of them are very safe and they definitely do help with the issue that you have. But if you don't have the issue, you shouldn't, I don't really, in my mind, you shouldn't really be taking pills that you don't need to be taking, because, you know, who knows what sort of side effects are in those medications that long term can have some sort of a small, but still every, like, I gotta focus on every kind of percentage that I can hang on to in order to increase my longevity and quality of life.
Yeah, my little niece who had leukemia, she went through chemo, but some weeks now still she has like 100 seizures a week. And last year she had a seizure and she threw herself under a London bus, but fortunately the bus stopped just in time. So
Jesus.
the seizures can become quite life-threatening. If you can go into a coma and die. Yeah,
Oh,
so
easily.
yeah.
The only one I
Um,
had where I actually collapsed, I was out for a run, and thankfully I was in a run in a park, and so I landed on soft ground. But there was also like pathways along that the route that I had. If I had fallen on that, like there was, you know, it wasn't a scar; it was just like a cut. But like there was a cut on the side of my my eye and down my face. If I had landed on a you know, a concrete surface, I could easily crack my head open. Like I'm
yeah.
6'2". That's a long way to like have a head come down
Mm.
and hit the ground.
So earlier on, then you said you had to go through a mental adjustment to tell your parents. What was that like?
I had to go for a mental adjustment.
Yeah, in the beginning you didn't want to tell your parents, but then you did.
No. Yeah, well, I was just sort of out of a sense of family duty that I did it. I didn't want to. I knew it would result in the the over sort of encumbrance of attention that I didn't want to have. But yeah, no, they took it well, but they were worried naturally. Which I also didn't want to throw on them. I kind of knew they're not going to be able to do anything, and that's what most human beings. If you give them bad news, they want to do something, even if it's like I want to attend a funeral. That's still doing something. You feel like you want to be active. You want to do something that is related to the situation. And when you're not able to do that, I'd imagine that's why there was quite a lot of frustration with you know, deaths going over COVID, is because we couldn't grieve in any sort of a normal way. We just had to do it at home with whoever was around us, and that's like the way things went with COVID. I was, it was fine for me. I mean, I had to stay at home anyway, so there was more of my friends sitting around so we could play video games together. So it was actually quite social for me that COVID happened. I'm one of the few people where it was like, not that I'm glad it happened, but it actually suited my situation very, very well. And I probably had a better time because of COVID. But that still doesn't mean that, like, it really pissed me off so much the way it's like, okay, this disease or this virus affects children and it affects older people. So let's shut down the people who are working and running the planet in order to try and protect these other people, where it's like, okay, shouldn't we protect them, but then keep the planet going? Wouldn't that be better for everybody? If you're an old person and you're in a nursing home, can't we just set up sort of barricades for that they don't get sick? Same thing with schools. Like, you know, fair enough, the kids have to stay at home, they have to go on their iPads, but like, I just thought it made no sense whatsoever to cut everything else off. And like, we're in a very bad position now because of that. And I'm not an economist or anything like that, but I don't think that it was you know, an intelligent move, and I felt like that from the start. They shut down like open air gyms. They allowed people to walk around, but I wanted to work out, and so there's a handful of open air gyms near my house, and they closed them off. And it's just like that, the logic of paying somebody to come in a group, because you need to do that to get fences on, to get multiple people to bring a fence around an open air gym to stop people from working out and keeping healthy. It's just it's and even like in the outside, you know, it's just so stupid. It irritated me so much how some of those things happen. But anyway, it's over now ish.
Going back to the conversation with your parents, then, I imagine a lot of people are trying to imagine what it's like to broach that subject with your parents. Do you remember the conversation?
Oh, I just called them up on a group WhatsApp call with, like, you know, my brother. I think my nieces were there, and I just sort of told them straight up here. This is the situation. And focus more on the lucky side of things, where it's like the chances of someone my age detecting it with no symptoms is like the surgeon who did my craniotomy is a pioneer in brain surgery. The amount of brain surgeries that he's done in his career is through the roof. He's featured in lots of research papers. Like he's very, very, very high up. You couldn't get better. My parents, you know, they're financially quite successful. They did a lot of they worked from, you know, quite a young age, and my father has a master's degree in chemistry, and, you know, having something like that in the 70s, that's, you know, leads to good work. And my mom was a journalist, and so they were kind of thinking like, no, come on, we could, like, you know, we don't throw money at you, but like if there's a this is the situation definitely where it's like, you know, please just use what we've got. And they looked around, they were like, no, you know, they're not cheap. So it's like they looked around and was like, no, this guy's actually like fairly up there. I don't think we could, there's a benefit to like paying for private healthcare. You'd be sleeping in more like a more comfy bed, but like we don't really care about that. We want the best surgeon. And Tim Jones is, like, you know, one of the best surgeons in the planet. Never mind in the like UK area, in the London area, and he was a walking distance. The hospital that I was going to, not that it made much of a difference, but it was a walking distance from where I was living at the time, which is St. George's Hospital. And so one of the things that he said was that he's only ever encountered one other patient that was a similar age to myself and didn't have symptoms. So that's the kind of thing that I focused on when I was telling them about the luck rather than the unluckiness.
Did you feel you got a weight off your shoulders after you told them?
Nope. Feel like I added more weight.
Really? Because then you've got the stress, they're worried about you, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So how did you deal with that?
Sure. What else can you do? You just gotta answer the questions that they're asking, even though it's not what you want to be answering.
How many siblings have you got?
One. Oh, he didn't do it. I knew Jack wouldn't. I knew it was just going to be my parents.
Did you have a partner at the time?
Kind of. I was dating a girl, and because it was COVID, you'd stay with each other in the houses. But no, it wasn't like sort of. I felt like I had to tell her, but the same sort of situation where it's like, I really don't want to make this a thing because then it's going to become a bigger thing.
But you felt you had to tell her. What was her reaction?
She was fine. It wasn't a particularly nice person, hence why it didn't last that long. It was the breakup afterwards was almost hilarious. It was sort of like she unlike you'll remember that I mentioned about how I had an inability to speak properly for 6 days after the surgery, and the reason that we like broke up, like, again, we weren't official or anything like that. It was just sort of it suited the time to stay with each other, but that would imply that we had a more tight relationship than we did. And she said like she'd just have to break up with me. And then it was like, because I couldn't read texts very well at the time, I didn't really understand. And I was just sort of like, oh yeah, okay. Oh, she said like, I don't think we can see each other. And it's like, that's fine. Like, I'm gonna be going through this sort of thing for a while now. That's all right. And then it was only after I'd kind of come out of my thing that I was able to look back and realize that the reason that she'd sort of wanted to separate things was because I wasn't paying enough attention to the fact that she had burnt her lip with a cigarette. I know, exactly. And then afterwards, I even sent a message being like, "You're not the only person who I wasn't replying to. Like, here's my best friend. Here's my father. Here's like, several of my other friends who are asking about like how I'm getting on." And she was just like, "Oh, like that doesn't justify what you did." I was laughing. I sent the video I sent the screenshot of what she had said to so many people because it's just like, "Oh my God, check out this bird. She's unbelievable. How could you it's like something that like you'd write in a script for a film. It was so bad. It was hilarious. And then she started like even chasing down one of my friends saying that I was gaslighting her and all this sort of thing. And I was just like, Sure I was.
So what was your mental adjustment then after you told, your family, your best friends? How did you start to change your life?
I didn't really change my life. I just started to film and edit and upload videos about my progress on the fitness. So like I was always into my fitness. I guess I just sort of adapted it more to be about running, which I hadn't done in a couple of years. So not very much changed. It was really like after a while it became very once the channel started to really kick off, which was basically just as soon as I started using TikTok, which I was kind of resistant to at the start because it's like, that's for kids. Like it's, people dancing and people mouthing songs. Like, that's not me. I don't want to do that sort of thing. But one of my mates absolutely just convinced me. It was like, just do it. It's what's hot. It's what's trending. If this is what your goal is, it doesn't matter about what you want. It's about what the world wants and what the world is desirable for. And quickly I realized that TikTok is definitely not just for kids. It's just when you open the app first, it needs to take a while until it understands what videos you like, and then it starts to guide you along with that sort of stuff. So now, like, I don't look at a lot of TikTok because I'm on my phone enough with editing and all that sort of stuff that I don't want to get sucked into it. But it is whenever I'm sort of flicking through the For You page is what it's called. It's all like really dark jokes and like stuff definitely not sort of safe for kids, just like really sort of cartoons that are certainly made for like 18-year-olds and really sort of parodies of like Bugs Bunny and all that sort of stuff. And so from that also helped with how much a good video gets seen like that on TikTok, whereas YouTube is still like the algorithm that's got it's hilariously bad. I don't know how anyone starts off and like rises. Like I don't really mind so much because my Instagram and my YouTube or my TikTok are doing terrific. They're doing fantastic. But you can literally make a video on TikTok that will get like this is actual stats. It's like 40 million views on TikTok, and I upload that to that same video but without watermarks or anything like that. So it's not like it's YouTube would have a reason to be like, you made this on TikTok, so therefore we're going to cut it off. I didn't do that. I made it on its own.
Thanks for watching our podcast. This is a word from our sponsor, Shopify. I feel like I'm missing out because everyone is starting a side hustle or their own business these days. And you know what they're hearing a lot? That's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling books or events like us, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Shopify covers all your sales channels, from a shop-front-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to 24/7 help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. Look, there's so many options out there to expand your business these days. And what's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with the confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Sean, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Sean to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Sean. That's the word from our sponsor. Thanks for watching. Link in description. Back to the podcast.
Editing software, and then uploaded it separately to YouTube and to TikTok, and I think it was like 100 and something views on YouTube. It's like, this is not to do with the quality of my videos here, guys. This is definitely to do with the algorithm that you've got, and for whatever reason, it's just not being shown to a wider audience on YouTube as it is on TikTok. But as long as one of them is doing well, I don't mind.
So one of the themes in the ancient Stoic philosophers is that people don't value life until they face or have faced death. Would you agree with that?
No, I think for me, the difference was nothing to do with I have faced death, now I'm going to live my life more. It was that the opportunity that it presented to me gave me something to focus on, which I didn't have before. So that's where my sort of elevated levels of happiness have come from. It's like if someone had come to me and said, hey, I've become really big on social media. Will you come and join me in doing all this stuff? I need a right-hand man to help me out with this sort of thing. And that I had then gotten into, yeah, okay, we're doing the exact same thing. We're trying to break the world record for raising money for a charity. And the way we're doing that is not by asking for donations. I think I'd be in the exact same sort of mental state if that opportunity had been presented to me and it was unrelated to me having a terminal illness. I think it's just my happiness has come from the fact that I have a goal, and that the way that I get to that goal is through creativity and through being sort of quite focused on improving myself in terms of fitness. And to improve yourself on fitness, you often need to improve yourself on many other traits that go along with life, like your mental state, your diet, your routine, that sort of thing.
So is there like a bucket list of things that you've done that you otherwise wouldn't have done?
No, I don't really believe in a bucket list thing. I think bucket lists are, they're normally just sort of faff that mean nothing. So it's like, oh, my bucket list is to see the Great Wall of China. Like, okay, it's not, in terms of your life spending, it's not that expensive to go to China and see the Great Wall. It's not that hard. So like, no one goes to, I miss, some people might, but very few people have that on their to-do list, their bucket list. And then they go out to the Great Wall of China. I'm not like hitting on people who have these sort of travel goals or like goals, things that they want to do. That's fine. But the idea of that, like, you know, sort of like, I've always wanted to go to the Great Wall of China. It's not like you're going to arrive there and you're going to go, oh, my life is different now. I've seen this magnificent structure. It's like, I am awake now. I see things differently. It's like, that doesn't fucking happen. Whereas, you know, same thing where it's like, I want to run a marathon. It's like, cool, do it. But like, once you cross the line, you might learn a little bit about yourself from doing a marathon, more so than seeing the thing. But like, if you have a real like tough thing to do, and it's always been something that you've been thinking about, that to me is a bucket list. If someone has a list of like 10 things, that's not a real bucket list. A bucket list should be like 3 things in my mind, where it's like, if you want to achieve something, I want to be a gold medalist in the Olympics. There you go. That's a bucket list. But even at that, like, the idea of the bucket list is in itself things to do before I kick the bucket. It's like, that's not really that you wouldn't really apply that to a gold medalist, because after the age of 35, like, there'd probably be a few exceptions. I think some of the strength things you'd be in your prime when you're 35, but like after 35, most of the Olympians, they're on their way out. So yeah, bucket list. It's a common thing, but when you actually start to really think about it, it's kind of meaningless. In my opinion.
What about living more in the present? Do you do that?
I think of like, for whatever reason, I can't think of any sort of moment that has been like kind of now you now live in the moment more, but both for good and bad. I don't know when my life has changed to be in this situation, because I used to always be thinking about future and past rather than situation. But I feel like I naturally live in the moment a lot more. But that also comes with not replying to people, which is not only something that I did when I was unable to speak, but just in general. Every single one of my friends and family will tell you that I'm terrible at replying. So this whole thing where it's like, living in the moment is the greatest thing in the world. It's like, still comes with some problems.
What about when you hear people getting stressed out over small things? In your brain, do you think, wow, I've got something big that I'm dealing with, and if this person was facing something big, they wouldn't be so worried?
With some things, it depends on how they do with it. So, I have certainly, I think it's just with age, and obviously the going through the chemotherapy and the having a brain tumor probably has added to it, but I wouldn't say it's added to it more so than just general getting older. But I can't stand whinging. I've got a really short fuse for it. To be perfectly honest, it's come from my parents, because like my parents whinge a lot about meaningless shit. And for me, it's the big one when it's something where you kind of do a quick analysis on it. And it's like, okay, you want to have an argument about the fact that this hairbrush was left on a counter rather than put away. And it's like, okay, is that worth an argument? Is that worth the effort of putting the hairbrush inside the thing, or simply asking the person, hey, will you clean up the hairbrush? And I understand that there'd be a lot of people who are like, well, that's justifying, being untidy. That's not a good thing. And I agree, that's not a good thing. But it's kind of like a lot of people will bitch and complain about stuff that it doesn't matter. Or like someone who would I broke a French press earlier on today, and some people, they go like really upset, and I kind of look, I was like, okay, that was silly. I was shaking it from the plastic, a French press would kind of, it's right in front of me. French press like that, it's missing the glass. And then rather than I held it like this to shake the coffee out rather than holding it on the actual glass. And the glass fell out, and it's like, that was silly. And then I just went over to my computer and went to Amazon. I was like, buy another French press. It's like, that's how you should react to things like that. And it really irritates me when people are like, it's like, yeah, you fucked up. But like, people who complain about like, is something like that happening, and it's like you drop a bottle of beer on the ground, or they drop a bottle of water or tea, and it's like, and someone goes like, that's my favorite mug, or some shit. It's like, just buy another mug. Like, accidents happen. These arguments do not need to happen. These exacerbated amounts of sort of upset, they do not need to happen. And sometimes, you do need to confront someone, and you do need to have that sort of like, you are being a prick. You need to stop doing this, and this. Every time I wake up, the room is a kip, and I've been asking you to tidy it up, and you never do it properly. That's definitely something that needs to be addressed. But I think that there's so much of just sort of people not just being able to be like, hey, can you write back to me about that thing? Can you write back to me? Yeah, cool. Can you get back to me? No. Let's not do it that way. Can we do it this way? Like, you need to have that 10 times before you have the, because that is just, it elevates stress levels. It makes it uncomfortable to be around other people. And that, for me, sort of ironically, I have a short fuse for that. Although I don't actually, I stick to my guns and I try not to react as they are reacting. I react with sort of a lower level of energy where it's like, that it's not, you are literally complaining. This isn't even spilt milk. This is spilt water. This is actually a quote of mine a while ago that I had to say to somebody. So it's like, this is not worth this level of stress. So let's just stop now. No. And you just kind of almost treat them like they're a fucking dog. Where it's like, no, we're not going to have that. No, we're not having that conversation. No, it's just a cup that broke on the ground. Stop it. Nope. That shit. In my mind, what I'm really doing is fucking screaming and like punching their face in the head until their like nose goes in and it starts pointing out the back of their skull. That's what's happening in my mind. But in reality, I'm going, no, stop, zen.
Yeah, one thing that helped me put problems in perspective was my sister invited me to spend a day at Great Ormond Street with the kids there. And, you know, they were all playing and stuff, and they got the hair missing and stuff. And my sister pointed at one kid and she said, that kid's not even going to see Christmas. I feel lucky because my kid, even though she's going through this treatment, you know, she's going to survive. So after I came out of Great Ormond Street, I was supposed to walk back to the tube station. I couldn't do it. I ended up just walking around London for hours and hours and hours, thinking about the meaning of life, which leads me to my next question for you is, has it made you contemplate the meaning of life, all of this?
Not so much the meaning of life, because for me, I'm quite goal orientated. I like achieving things is a big sort of happiness of my mind, and that is like, you know, having a family for me would be an achievement in my own mind. And so I don't really contemplate about the meaning of life so much, because I think in a basic format, the meaning of life for me is just simply, are you happy? Are you making others happy? I don't think there's a huge amount more. I actually remember coming up to my dad once when I was a child and saying to him, Dad, I've cracked it. I know the meaning of life. And my dad goes, okay, go on. What you got? And I said, it's happiness, because everything you do is related to happiness. You get a job so that you have money so that you can buy fun stuff and then you're happy. It's like, if you get sick, you go to the hospital and you pay for the hospital so then you can get well. It's all related to happiness. And I remember my dad's response was, it's a bit more complicated than that, but like, yeah, it is more complicated than that. But for me, that's it. Be happy. Make other people happy if you can.
You said having a family would give you more happiness. Is that something that you still plan to do?
I can't. I'm shooting blanks. But I know she's in the other. She's locked in. She's locked in with the other dog. Yeah, I got a dog. That's my daughter. I'm not one of those kind of freaks that's like, oh my god, she's my baby girl. Like, it was her birthday the other day. I'm not gonna make her like a dog cake or any of that stupid stuff. Give her a treat and like kind of pay attention to her a bit more. Like, hey, you're 3 today. Let's go for a half marathon. Actually, I think she did get quite a good birthday present. She got to run around on a mountain. She loves that. I never brought her out to like let her off the lead on a mountain before, and I'll be doing that a lot more. So yeah, that was her birthday present. But yeah, so that's sort of, I always wanted a family. Can't, shooting blanks. I could always adopt kids, but like it like going through the steps, I'm more realistic about my that goal of like getting a wife, getting a family, because it's like even getting a girlfriend, that's a hard sell. I'm like, I like girlfriends far more than I like dating girls. But having a girlfriend, it's like, hey, worst case scenario, you fall in love with me. That's the worst fucking case scenario for you. You fall in love with me, and then I die young, which is expected. And then, you know, you've got to go through a trauma. Or you could, like, you know, go somewhere else and try and find another guy that you think, like, you know, things are going really well with this guy. Any logical woman, and, like, you know, that's the kind of person who I want to marry, is a smart person, is a smart woman. She's going to have that common sense of being like, you know, okay, I really like this guy. If things go further, I'm going to get attached to this guy. And then he's going to poof and be no longer on the earth in a short period of time, judging by what's going on in the world of medicine at the moment. Having a child with him is a no-go because he's shooting blanks. And then adopting a child, yes, it's certainly an option. However, it is harder. And same thing where it's like, do I want to be raising an adopted child, likely as a single mother? So it's like 2 steps are made a lot significantly a harder selling point. So for me, I just try and let go of that, because there's no point in focusing on it if it's no longer achievable. Whereas my the world record and that sort of stuff, that is achievable. I'm not unrealistic in thinking that there could be a cure for my brain cancer. And then if that happens, hopefully it happens soon enough while I'm still sort of young, dumb, and full of cum that doesn't work. But like once that, if something like that were to happen, then I would then come back and I would start focusing again on right, yeah, let's well, not focusing on, because like I said, the idea of focusing on getting a relationship, I think, is pointless. But then it would sort of open up my thing of like, yeah, so now I'm not just looking for sort of companionship, like on the sort of dating scene. Now I am more focused on a girlfriend that will turn into a wife, and then we talk about adopting children. But in the meantime, I'm just going to get shitloads of dogs.
Iain, your strong spirit resonates off the screen, and people watching you probably feel the same. But some of those people are going through things in life, struggles. What do you say to those people?
Unfortunately, I have just gotten this sort of mental disposition, as if there's a physical disposition. I've gotten this way of thinking, but it just sort of was something that was natural to me. I don't know what I did to sort of put it together. It just sort of was there when I sort of went through my first amounts of trauma. I suppose something that I always wanted to do is, like, I've always kind of, whenever I've watched war films, fantasized about, like, I wonder who I'd be in that situation. Like, would I be the guy who is behind the iron girders holding onto his knees crying? Would I be the stoic captain who's like sort of saying, yeah, suppress the fire, go up there now? Would I be one of the unlucky lads who's like walking around trying to pick up his hand? And yes, I am talking about the exact scenes that are going through in Saving Private Ryan. For all you movie buffs there, if you're thinking, I recognize what film he's talking about there. Yeah, so I always wondered, like, you know, who would I be in that situation if I was in World War II, if I was in World War One? Hopefully, I'd prefer World War II than World War One. I think everybody would. And then, yeah, so sort of I saw this situation as, all right, this is your moment. How are you going to handle the fact that you've got a terminal disease? And it's it comes back from great advice from Joe Rogan, which is like the way you should see your life or go through your life is kind of imagine that you are the protagonist in your own film. And it's like, okay, what would Rocky do? Well, Rocky does this. What would Luke Skywalker do? Like, what do all the protagonists do when, like, they're hit with like problems? It's that they overcome them, and they don't sort of just, like, imagine how shit Star Wars would be if, like, you know, Luke Skywalker gets his hand chopped off, and it's like, I'm never being a Jedi again, and that's the end of it. It's like, okay, well, no part 3. The rebels get destroyed. Same thing with, like, you know, Rocky. It's like, imagine if he was like, oh, hey, I get to fight Apollo. It's like, cool. He gets smacked around the first round. It's like, ow, that was sore. I don't want to do it anymore. Hey, Apollo wins. Like, Apollo won anyway, but, like, a spoiler alert, but, like, you know, it doesn't make a good film. So it's like, it's all about confronting the issue that is coming into your life, and having a sort of a self-pride that, I know I go against what I'm about to say, where it's like my whole social media channel is like fucking, hey, look at me, amn't I so great, blah 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 blah. But like, you really shouldn't be. That's part of what what I want to achieve. It kind of involves, you know, a huge amount of vanity and promoting myself and like showing how terrific I am. But like, there's a deeper meaning within that, where I'm able to look at myself in the mirror and go like, right, how are you really handling this? Never mind the social media bullshit. How are you actually handling this? Are you handling it well? Do you like who you're looking at in the mirror now? And that is more of a focus that I try to do, where it's like, do you like who you are? It's like, yeah, I do like who I am. And it's like, do you love who you are? Yeah, I suppose. I tolerate who I'm. Like, imagining myself in my own relationship with myself. It's like, yeah, okay, I'd be a good boyfriend to myself, sort of thing. I'd probably have a good time at myself if I was my own boyfriend. I'd have a lot of fights with me, and like, put that fucking chocolate bar down. Stop it. Stop doing that. Stop doing that straight away in the morning. Get the fuck out the house straight away. You know that leads to happiness and productivity. Stop that. No. Don't, just because you're editing on your phone in bed, does it, like, you know, that's sort of productive. You know, it'd be better off if you got up and you walked around for 10 minutes, caught some morning air, and then sat down at a desk and did your editing. But you don't want to do that because it's a little bit harder. So that'd be me if I was in a relationship with me.
What a powerful note to end it on. Huge thank you for your time, Iain. Can you let the viewers know where they can find you and support you and follow you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, please start off with this whole thing of how what I'm trying to do is trying to break the world record for raising the most amount of money ever for running a marathon. But the way that I'm trying to do that is by getting more followers on social media. More followers attracts more sponsorship, and I donate all of the sponsorship money to charity. So the idea is that if you want to, you can donate. You can certainly contribute and say to yourself, hey, I'm part of the or I'm more so part of the Limo, Chemo, Timo. I'm part of that world record myself. But just by following the channel alone, you don't have to do anything more. You have contributed to raising the most money ever for running a marathon. And so my username is the King of Chemo. And I'd like to also add that the company My Protein, they would be the biggest sponsor that I have. There's a lot of support teams at the moment. Elvery's, for one, supplying all these jerseys. But My Protein are giving me £120,000 a year, £10,000 a month. And that's a contract that might be extended. It might be increased due to the amount of followers that I have towards the end of the year. And I'm giving 100% of that money away. 34,000 of it I'm actually just giving to people that have helped my channel grow the whole way up. So just random fans. I'm completely mimicking what Mr. Beast did, and then the rest of that money goes straight to charity. I don't hang on to a penny of it. I have no use, like, money. I don't really need money. I like the things in my life I like are beer, video games. They'd be the most expensive things that take that cost money in my life. After that, you know, the dog, she costs money at the start. She doesn't cost much money now. Like, friends, once you establish them, they shouldn't cost you a huge amount of money. So it's like, that's like most of my happiness, the huge amount of the happiness that I get in my life doesn't cost much. I don't have any need for that money. Success is far more important to me than money, and they're not the same thing.
So, thank you for watching this. All of Iain's links will be in the description box below this video if you're watching it on YouTube. Please go down, subscribe, support his work. How inspirational. Honestly, if you're going through things in your life, if you're stressing out, you're late for work, late for a fitness class, and you're almost giving yourself a heart attack, stories like Iain's really put these things in perspective. So please let us know in the comments what you thought about this, and we just salute your bravery and your spirit, man. And thanks again for spending time with us. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on.